Hello. So we're gonna head on to chapter 5, and we're gonna start with 5.1 simple interest. Um, so we will start with the simple interest formula, which is I equals hold PV times R times T. So I is the interest. Uh, that's not how you spell it. Interest. PV is the present value, which you also see as principal. R is the annual interest rate, and this is always in decimals. So when we're doing the calculations, it's in decimals. And then T is the time of investment, and that is in years. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start using this formula, plugging in to the or plugging the numbers in the following practice examples. So we're going to find the interest, if necessary, round to the nearest cent for money and to the nearest tenth for percentages. Okay, so $400 at 7% for 3 years. So our present value is going to be $400. R is 7%. Now, percent is 100ths. So 7 over 100, which is 0. Not 0, 0.07. So we divide by 100. We've got 2 zeros in 100. We move the decimal to the left and then add the 0 for percentages. And then our T equals 3. Okay, let's plug these numbers in. So 400 times 0.07 times 3, and we're going to get $84. Now, this is the interest. Um, that was asked. If we want the value right now, that would be the total principal or the present value plus the interest. So in our case, we've got $400 plus $84, which is $484 would be on the account after the 3 years. Okay, let's get the next one. So our principal is $600. Our interest rate is 6.3%, which is 0.063, and our time is 2 months. Now, remember that we need to actually um, have the time in years. So we've got 12 months in a year. So we're going to do 2 over 12, which does simplify to 1/6. Now we're going to go ahead and plug it in. So $600 times, hold on, that went too close. $600 times 0.063 times 1/6, and this equals $6.30. And again, if we want to calculate the principal plus the interest, so $600 plus 630, and we get $606.30. Okay, next one is 2000. $2,100, and our rate is 5%, which is 0.05, and then it is for 63 days. Okay, now, um, there are 365 days, so we're going to go ahead and do, oops, 63 divided by 365. Um, Now plugging all these numbers in, again, the present value times the rate times the time, and we get $18.12 for the interest, and then we've got $2,000, $2,118.12 on the account. Okay, now one thing, what we need to make sure is what's called a banker's rule. So a banker's rule is that there are 360 days in a year. Yes, no, like we did this calculation with 365, but normally when we do these calculations, we use the 360. So we use the banker's rule. Okay, let's look at the next example here. Um, Actually, before we do that, let's, so if we instead of this, if we use 63 over 360, so our interest would be 2,100 times 0.05, 63 over 360. Um, that calculates to, hold on, yeah, times 63 divided by 360. That gives us $18.38. So notice the difference here if we use the banker's rule or if we use 365. But basically here on, it's going to be the 360 days that we're going to be using. Okay, now Time Warner Cable took out a $7,500 30-year bond at 7.3% annual interest. Find the semi-annual interest and then the interest paid over the life of the bond. Okay, semi-annual interest. What does semi-annual mean? It means 6 months, which is half a year. Our present value is 7,500. Rate is 7.3%, which is 0.073. Time, semi-annual, so half a year. And now we're going to go ahead and calculate the interest here. So $7,500 times 0.073 times half, and we get $273.75. This is the semi-annual interest. Okay, it's asking for us to also calculate the interest paid over the life of the bond. So what's different? It's this 30 years. So instead of the half a year, we're going to use the 30 years. So our interest is going to be $7,500 times 0.073 times 30, and that's going to be $16,425. So what is that? That is the interest paid over the life of the bond, so over the 30 years. So over $16,000. Okay, next we're gonna look at the future value, which is also the maturity value. So what this is, and basically we already kind of did it here, where we did calculate the present value plus the interest over here. So what this is worth at the end. So the total, same thing as P plus I or PV plus I. So future value FV equals PV plus I. And we know that interest was calculated by present value times the rate times the time. So in other words, if we take out the present value as a common factor, we can rewrite this as the present value times parentheses 1 plus R times T. Again, this is the total. Okay, so instead of calculating the interest first and then the total value, we can just go ahead and do the whole thing together. So our present value in this one is $200. Our rate is 5%, so that is 0.05, and it's for 5 months. So 5 months is 5 over 12. Okay, so future value is going to be the present value $200, parentheses 1 plus 0.05 times the time, which is 5 over 12. Plug this in the calculator and we get $204.17. Okay, the next one. So again, pay attention now. What is it asking? Here it's asking find the present value of the future amount, $24,000, loaned for 11 months at 6%. The So the future value is $24,000. R is 6%, which is 0.06, and then time is 11 months, and that is 11 over 12. Now, for your exams, you will get a let me just you will get a formula sheet which will have all of these on there, and it will have this also the present value equals future value over 1 plus RT. Now, so this formula is on that sheet. I'll post the formula sheet on Canvas, so you will have that already to see. The one that I'm posting has all the symbols, what they mean, and what the actual formulas are. You will need to those won't be all on the exam. You'll have the formulas and you will need to know which one to use and when, if that makes sense. But you'll get all these formulas. This formula right here comes from when we solve the present value from this one right here. So That's how we get that. But again, you don't need to do it. You don't need to solve it. The formula is given. So we're just going to plug numbers in. So we get 24,000 is the future value, and then 1 plus 0.06 times 11 over 12. And again, make sure that if you're plugging this in the calculator or the whole thing at once, you put the denominator, the whole thing inside the parentheses, um, so that it calculates it correct. So you should get $22,748.82. And we'll look at, yeah, anyways, yes. So next question is how much must Harry's Hardware deposit at 3.5% interest for 210 days in order to earn $500 interest? And assume, so here we're not using the this banker's rule that we talked about, 360 days. It actually says assume 365 days a year. So it tells us that we're using 365. Okay, oops. That was not what I meant to do. Okay, we have our interest, $500. We have our rate, which is 3.5%. So that's 0.035. And we have our time, 210 days. And again, we're using the 365 since it gives us that. Now, what is it asking? How much must Harry's Hardware deposit in order to earn interest this much? So that's why the $500 is interest. So it's asking the present value. That is what we're looking for. How much is it supposed to deposit? That's the present value. So we're going to we know that interest equals present value times R times T. We have the interest, $500. We don't know the present value, and our rate is 0.035, and time is 210, 365. Okay, so when we do that calculation on the right side here, we get 0.0201, and then to cancel or to get the present value, we're gonna divide both sides by this, and we get present value equals $24,829.93. Okay, next one here. Novelties and such borrowed $300 for 100 days and paid 2.88 interest. Find the rate of interest on the loan. So we know that the present value was $300. We know that time is 100 days. So that is 100. We're going to assume still that it is the 365 because it was given to us in on that previous one. I know that it doesn't say it on this. Um, on your exam, it will be clear. And then interest is going to be 2.88. So that is the interest that is paid. And now it's asking for the interest rate. So again, we're using the same formula here for the interest. So we know that the interest is 2.88 and the present value is $300. Oops, that's a 2. $300. Excuse me. Excuse me, that was a sneeze that came through. Okay, so the rate, that's the one that we don't know, and our time is 100 over 365. Okay, um, so what we can do here is we can go ahead and do that calculation on the right here. So 300 times 100 divided by 365, and we get 82.19 cents, and that is our R. Now we're going to divide by that 82.19 to cancel from both sides, and then our R is going to end up being 0.035. So R is, now we're multiplying by 100, so we're moving it to the right 3.5%. Now, another way of doing this particular problem, what we could do is we could take this formula right here, I equals PV times R times T. Oops, the P should be a capital P. And we can, before we do anything else, we can actually solve for the R. And so that means that we would divide by PV times T, both sides. And we would get R equals I over PV times T. Let me just make sure that the T's kind of stand out, that they're by themselves. So now if we plug in, our interest was $2.88, and our present value was $300, and our time is 100 over 365. And when we plug this in the calculator, we would get the same 0.035, which we got here. Okay, that's it for this lesson. Let me know if you've got any questions. Bye.